Hello friends, I quickly was doing an Instagram story and I decided that this live would be a lot better and a lot more productive for all of you. So this is very impromptu, but it was just because I was trying to explain something to you guys in an Instagram story, and I was like, you know what, we're going to be here for about 50 Instagram stories, so I'm much better off explaining this on this Instagram live. So one second. So if you watched my Instagram story, I'm going to give you a really quick update. Hi everyone. If you watched my Instagram story, obviously a lot of you have been asking me a lot of questions about trauma lately because I did that Instagram story and the live all about trauma to help a lot of you understand it, especially if you're new to my work. We have uploaded the Trauma IGTV as a podcast. Well, not we, I actually did that. Go me. So you can listen to it as a podcast if you want to. But anyway, a lot of you have been asking me questions about like, can sisterhood wounding affect trauma? Like, can trauma affect the way that you relate with your like girlfriends, like your sisters? Like what about the mother and father wound? Is that covered in Queen Alchemy? Like, is that a trauma thing? They're all trauma things. So you guys can ask me some questions today. I've probably got about 10 minutes. So if you want to ask me some questions, go for it. And then I'm going to head off. But I'm going to quickly recap what I was explaining to you guys in the Instagram stories. And then I want to just give you a little bit of like the science behind the reason why your trauma affects you from making decisions. And therefore you can't up level as much in X, Y, and Z. So as I showed you guys on my Instagram story, this is CZ. It's just comfort zone is all that means. So this here is your comfort zone, right? Now, as many of you may know that when you're in your comfort zone, that's not where the magic happens. When you're expanding, that's all things outside your comfort zone. So as I showed you guys, let me bring this a bit closer. So as I showed you guys, all these little dashes, these are things outside your comfort zone, yeah? So when things are outside your comfort zone, when you have trauma in your body, I'm going to explain this in a second, you're like, fuck no, avoid, right? Now, there is a small portion of people, and this used to be the case for even me, depends on the situation, right? People can also be addicted to the cortisol release that they get from trauma, and they can get addicted to the feelings they get from their trauma. So they can constantly be doing things that are kind of like dangerous to their life almost, because they are trying to get a feeling of I am alive for two reasons. So one, sometimes people are numbed out from their trauma, so they will often do really, really dangerous things with their life because they're trying to feel alive, right? So when they do, like I know some friends where they used to do really crazy things because that was their way of feeling alive, and it was also like a little bit of a death wish, but in like not a death wish kind of way. Right? And they just loved that thrill. It made them feel alive and important in that moment. Then there's also people, and this is often veterans, where they get, and there's been studies that have actually been done to show this, and you guys learn all about this in certification in way more details if you're interested. I'm like just making this a bit more basic for you all to understand, because I just want you guys to like wrap your head around this so you understand it. But like veterans, for example, they can get really addicted to being in these trauma cycles where normal life is so boring that they'll pull their fucking hair out and they can't do it, and they only feel alive and they only feel useful, they only feel like themselves in the face of danger. Like there's been studies done where they put all these veterans in a room and they're watching like a horrendous movie, and they have their hand in an ice cold bucket of water for 30 minutes, and the amount of adrenaline that gets pumped through their body when they're watching this movie is the same as getting the same amount of morphine that you would get in hospital if you had a brain injury, that much morphine. So it's the same. The amount of adrenaline is the same as getting that much morphine in hospital. Hence, they can hold their hands in an ice cold bucket of water for 30 minutes and they don't feel it, because the rush that they are getting from the horrendous movie is enough to numb them out. Now, as a result, these people don't feel as much in their life. They don't feel as much pain and they don't feel as much pleasure because they're in this trauma situation. Anyway, so what I want to explain to you guys with this diagram that I was showing you is what the real chicken nugget of the whole situation, right? Is that when you have trauma that you haven't worked on, what happens is that your comfort zone, I'm going to generalize this because they are different situations, but I'm going to do the general consensus is what happens to most of you is that anything outside of your comfort zone is like danger, Will Robinson. Oh my God, who remembers Lost in Space? I just remember that. I used to watch it when I was a kid. Danger, Will Robinson, right? So when you have a trauma response, when you have a traumatic thing happen in your life and you don't clear your trauma, you do not fix the trauma cycle, and you do not stop getting triggered, what happens is little tiny triggers. It can be smells, it could be a day of the year, it could be a sound, it could be the way someone touched you or a word that somebody said, it could be a dream, it could be anything that triggers you to having this massive release of cortisol in your body. What then happens is your alarm bells go off in your brain and in your body as like danger, danger, danger. And so you will in that moment try and bring yourself back to safety as much as you can. And some people can do really crazy things to get safety, but I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong about how you're going to deal with your trauma in the situation, because the bottom line is your body is trying to survive in that situation. Now, as a result of that, when you've had a traumatic situation like that happen, and everyone reacts differently, like there's different ways that you can react to trauma, but let's say for example, you've reacted to triggers in this like fight or flight way. Okay, we'll do that way first. You have this fight or flight way and all this cortisol is running through your body. What will happen is that you will avoid situations in the future where you are going to feel uncomfortable. So as a result, you may have this like low level of anxiety that is just like constantly in your body. You may feel like constantly like you have to look over your shoulder and things. You may not want to do things out of your comfort zone. You may not want to do things that scare you. And this is the result of you having this constant release of cortisol in your body, this low level release of cortisol from the trauma that you haven't yet healed. Now, as a result of that, so if you want to be expanding your life, when I say expanding, up leveling, we're talking about manifesting, quantum leaping, we're talking about growing your business quickly, we're talking about getting in that dream relationship, we're talking about getting the promotion, we're talking about moving house, moving countries, going traveling, just really expanding your life, enjoying your life, going to that next level, right? Now, if you're wanting to go to that next level, but your trauma is like constantly like danger, danger, danger in your body, you will find it so hard, if not impossible, to go outside your comfort zone, because anything outside your comfort zone, hey babe, anything outside your comfort zone is making your body go, danger, I'm gonna die. And so when that thing's outside your comfort zone, what literally happens in your brain is your alarm bells go off. And there's the whole science behind this that you guys learn in the certification with all the names of everything, the different parts of your brain and what exactly happens. But I'm just giving you guys like a just giving you guys the non-crazy sciencey terms so you don't get confused and you just all understand it. So the alarm bells start to go off in your brain and you will avoid those tits, OMG. There you go. I don't even know this guy, but that's fine. Don't really give a fuck. So your alarm bells go off, and then what will happen is that you will avoid things outside your comfort zone. As a result, you can't up level the way that you want to up level. So there's always a bit of an element of fear, right? When you're about to do something new because you haven't done it before. So like I've been showing you guys, things in your comfort zone, you have done things in your comfort zone before, and therefore they're not scary. So even little things like you've cooked spaghetti bolognese before, so when you go downstairs to cook spaghetti bolognese for dinner, you're not like, oh my God, this is weird, I don't know how to cook spaghetti bolognese. You don't feel nervous about it, right? But the first time you go on a first date even, you feel a little bit nervous maybe, because it's the first time you've been on it's been a long time since you've been on a first date, for example. Or even sometimes if you haven't cooked a dish before and you all of a sudden want to cook a dish, you might feel a little bit nervous about it. That's because you haven't done it before. And so your brain is like feeling that unknown, and you don't feel safe in the unknown because your body doesn't really know safety, and your nervous system is so sensitive that anything that makes you feel a little bit unsafe, your nervous system is like, whoa, and you actually can get triggered again to release all the cortisol to then go back into that stress response and be in your trauma cycle. So even though you're not having the traumatic event happen again, your body is reacting like it is happening again. So when it comes to you wanting to expand, safety is the key thing. If you don't feel safe in your life, if you don't create safety even in your environment, you won't up level. And some of you might know this, some of you might not, but I'm going to give you another chicken nugget about manifestation, quantum leaping, expanding, all that kind of stuff, is that your environment plays a really big role into the way that you're expanding. So even for example, the part of the reason I'm wearing a Tulum is because me being in a London lockdown all the time is not allowing me to expand. I don't care what someone fucking says to me. I am so environment based. So what that means is my environment affects me heavily, like so fucking heavily. It's out of control that I have to prioritize that. I don't really have a choice not to, especially with my business. I have to prioritize that. So your environment directly correlates to your ability to manifest, quantum leap, up level. So if your environment doesn't have a lot of safety, you won't feel safe to all slut levels. So even, for example, me going to Tulum, there's obviously elements of unsafety, right? It's like I'm traveling during a pandemic. It's a long international flight. I've never taken Jelly on an airplane before. Jelly's my dog, if anyone doesn't know. He's right there on the floor asleep. I've never taken Jelly on an airplane before. I've never been to Mexico. Actually, I have been to Mexico when I was a tiny little kid. We went to Cancun. Haven't been to Mexico before, really. Like, I don't remember it. And that kind of stuff. And so what I needed to do is in that scenario, and I also want to let you guys know that like I've dealt with my trauma, so there wasn't a trauma response, there was nervousness. And in order for me to feel safe to then go, all I had to do was make sure that Sarah asked every fucking question to the airline. She went on every fucking website and she wrote down everything that I need to know, and she put it in our Asana table, and I looked at it and I was like, sweet, I'm good to go. And all that fear went away, and I now feel really safe going because that environment now feels safe to me, if that makes sense, okay? It doesn't mean that my growth, that me going out of my comfort zone now is like easy fucking capeasy. There's still a little bit of like, oh, what's gonna happen? And I'm really excited. And of course, I'm a little bit nervous. Of course, there's a part of me, that little inner girl that's like, what if I hate it and I wanna come home, right? And of course, I could just come home, but there's that tiny little part of me. And so what I wanna share with you guys is that tiny little part of me is I don't feel that doesn't jolt me. That doesn't jolt my nervous system. I can see it from like an outside perspective because I am not constantly having this underlying stress and anxiety from trauma that I haven't healed. Now, if I was in this situation prior to trauma that I haven't healed, it'd be a different situation. Now, some other ways that people don't get out of their comfort zone is that some people in traumatic situations, they don't get that massive release of cortisol setting them into a fight or flight. Instead, what happens is they go into a freeze response. They go into a freeze, they detach, they numb out, they disassociate. This is kind of, I mentioned this to you guys last week, whenever that other Instagram live was about trauma. Now, if you have disassociated from your trauma, you won't be able to feel as much pleasure and you won't be able to feel as much pain in your life. And as a result, what can happen is one of two things. One, you are constantly jumping out of your comfort zone to feel anything, and that can become a very unhealthy addiction because you could actually be doing really dangerous things and you don't recognize that they're dangerous, because the effect that trauma has on your brain is that it literally rewires your brain. Everything moves around, everything changes, the way that you see the world, the way that you interpret information, the way that you feel, all these things change from trauma. So what can happen is that you will try and go out of your comfort zone all the time to find feelings. And then the other thing is that you will numb out and disassociate so heavily from your life that you will constantly be in your comfort zone and you will never expand because you are paralyzed essentially at the thought of doing anything that could make you feel the tiniest bit unsafe. In fact, you don't even feel the excitement of expanding. You don't even feel the excitement of your next level life because the numbness has stopped you from feeling pain and it stopped you from feeling pleasure. So pain and pleasure is on a spectrum, right? Like they're opposites. Things that are opposites are on a spectrum. Abundance and scarcity is on a spectrum. You can't have one without the other. Now that doesn't mean that when you feel abundant, you also feel scarce. What that means is that the more that you feel one thing, the more that you can also feel the other thing. So the more that you feel pain, the more that you'll feel pleasure. The more that you feel abundant, the more that you can feel scarce. Now, as a result of that, some of you might be familiar with this, and I'm familiar with this myself. The more pleasure I feel, the more pain that I feel. Now, that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing because I can move it through my body really quickly. I've become friends with pain. I no longer see it as a bad side of the spectrum. I just see it as part of the spectrum. It's just part of the spectrum. And as a result of that, I can also feel a lot of pleasure. Okay, so any questions on this before I quickly go, because I do need to go, but that's a really quick snapshot of how trauma affects your ability to expand and up level. So if there's part of you that's like wanting to, whilst you're ready, ask any questions, I'll just continue. If there is like part of you that wants to do something and you're also petrified, it's your trauma that's affecting you from being able to make a decision, because your heart has a vibrational frequency 5,000 times greater than your brain. Now, what that means is that basically your heart can tell the future and your brain can't. So think of it like waves, right? Your heart can literally go go out into the future and feel what's about to happen and then tell you what to do. Your brain can't do that. That's why in your heart you can have a pull towards something and your brain doesn't know why, and then it all works out so well. Your heart knows the future. This is why when you listen to your heart, you will never go wrong. Even if you listen to your heart and the outcome that you wanted wasn't the outcome that your ego wanted, it was the outcome that you needed to have in order to get the next thing after that, for example. So if you are not able to make decisions, because stress and the constant cortisol through your body from trauma that you haven't healed, and you don't have, and often guys, you won't know that you're chronically stressed. The people that have the most trauma are the ones that seem the least stressed, because they just suppressed so much of it and they're so tapped out, is basically what it is. So a lot of men that have PTSD, they won't know they have PTSD, for example, for a long time until something major triggers it, and it's just because they've numbed out and disassociated is why that's happened. So you don't have to feel stressed to have trauma. But what was I saying? So yeah, if you're wanting to do something and you're afraid of doing it, 1, tune into your heart. 2, make sure that your environment makes you feel safe. Make sure that you are doing things in your life that feel safe. Make sure that your friendships are safe. Make sure that you're doing things that calm your nervous system down, like baths and reading and meditation and, anything that makes you feel good, and make those next level decisions for yourself when you are in a relaxed state. If you are in a stressed state, you will not be able to make the right decision for you. Okay, this is why I do not believe in pressuring people for sales, because that someone's just going to make a traumatic decision in that choice and they could regret it, because when there is cortisol pumping through your body, you cannot put your thoughts together properly. You cannot make really logical sense of things. When you're in a trauma response, your logical mind goes out the window and your reptilian mind jumps on in and just takes the action. So you want to make decisions from your heart, from a calm space, tune into your intuition, tune into what your heart wants. And like I was saying yesterday on my Instagram, I think I was saying it, the chicken nugget of when people ask me who's your inspiration, I say I am my own inspiration. And like what I was saying by that is that my higher self is my inspiration. Tune into your higher self. Like make decisions based on her. So for example, the example that I always use is that when I was in Ibiza 2019, I said this on Instagram Live and it stuck with quite a few people and they've referred back to it before, is that my next level self had a manager. Did I need one at that exact point in time? No, I didn't need one at that exact point in time, but my next level self did. Now, because I embodied, acted, and lived like my next level self, and I wasn't afraid to live like my next level self, then within weeks, I fucking needed that manager. So basically, it's like, try and make decisions based on your next level. Your next level self is the person that you want to have dinner with, and then your next level self should be the person that is inspiring you, not somebody else. Don't try and be somebody else. Think of your next level. What house does she live in? What clothes does she wear? How does she feel about money? How does she show up in sex? How does she invest in herself? How does she think about her job and like all these things? And like, what would she be doing in this scenario? And make choices. God, my shoulder's sore. I need a massage. Make choices based on that, based on what she would be doing. Okay. Do you guys have any quick questions about this? Otherwise, I'm gonna go and actually need to make dinner for us. Do you have any other questions? But I hope this makes sense to you. Oh, the last thing that I will say actually is that, so when you start to make decisions outside your comfort zone, those things become inside your comfort zone, so it all gets easier. So let's say, for example, this little thing outside your comfort zone could be like traveling somewhere by yourself, right? Now what then happens is this becomes your new comfort zone. So that traveling by yourself is now in your comfort zone, and a bunch of other things that are kind of at the same level of like risk, let's say, are also inside your comfort zone. So all those things become easier to do, okay? Then what that means is that you've expanded yourself, you've expanded your aura, you've expanded your capacity to hold energy. And then the next thing could be investing in yourself in a program. It could be buying yourself a trip somewhere, lots of travel. It could be going on that first date that you're afraid to go on that feels really scary. It could be investing in your business, could be hiring your first team member, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. and then that becomes your new comfort zone, right? And then everything else that's at that same level, that's also in your comfort zone. So now everything seems easier because your energy's expanded. Your nervous system has the capacity to now hold more because you feel safer at that high level of energy. Does that make sense? Then you just keep going and your comfort zone gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So things get scarier to do as you go because you trust yourself more. Okay? All right, let me answer these questions and then I'm gonna go. Okay. I'm new here. Hi, Chelsea. Love this. I'll be tuning in more. Love your energy and everything you're saying is landing. Thank you, Chelsea. I did an Instagram live about what is trauma the other day. So just go back. It's like 2 Instagram lives back, I think. And that will give you kind of a good foundation to also listen to. So I would go there, and I've got a podcast full of like, I think we're up to 141 episodes, and like 90% of them are solo episodes of just me talking about this stuff. So you'll get lots out of there as well. I spent my whole life teaching people to listen to their heart. It's the only way to ever make decisions. It is, like, honestly, I know that it can feel scary. Like, I get that. And you can be like, how is this gonna work? Blah, blah, blah. Like, I have so many things that I have to get through. Like, even like, of course, I'm going to be living back in America soon. And it's like, I have to get all these visas. Like, how is this going to work? But I don't worry about that. Like, I know that's going to happen. And I just follow my heart because I know that's going to only lead me to all the right people. It's going to lead me to a better life, a bigger life. I'm going to be happier. The world's going to be a better place because I'm happier. And not saying I'm not happy now. I'm super happy now in my life. It's just like, it's just going to be even better when I get to live back there again. Like, always listening to your heart. There is always a fucking way if you're living in alignment. All right, guys, I feel like I answered most people's questions before you even had any questions. That's great. Yeah. Hope you have a lovely night. If you want to join the certification, let me know. There's still a few spaces left as well with Queen Alchemy. And then we go. Sophia, I remember when you told me that money will come back when I invested in Baba, and it did ×3. Boom, baby. It did ×3. And you are like a really beginning business. Sophie was a really beginning business as well. I had other girls that were even more like further into their business, and they 10 times their income in Baba, for example. It always comes back. And okay, actually, I'm gonna say this one last thing just on investing whilst we're on the topic of that. I feel like it's easier for people to invest in their businesses because they're like, oh, well, I can just like get more clients and like make the money back. But people then focused on money, like they're focused on the numbers. They're not focused on the energy in their life. And so people then don't invest in much in like having healthy relationships or doing their own personal development work that isn't business related because they're like, oh, well, like, how can I make that money back because I don't have my own business? But this is what I want to say to you guys of like, 1, it's not all about the digits in the fucking bank account. And 2, the way that you get your money back is because your life gets richer when you are happier, when you are more in alignment, when you have people, when you've attracted people in that fucking love you, when you're having the sex that you've always dreamed about, when you're with your dream fucking partner, when you don't have stress around money because you've healed your money mindset, when you're in your feminine, so you're no longer trying to do and like fix everything all the time and do life. You're just you're letting yourself be, you're letting your man do everything for you. Like, that makes your life richer. That is what makes your life richer. Like, even for example, when I was in Switzerland, it's like I spent a lot of money in Switzerland, like it was a big investment, and I wasn't working at all when I was in Switzerland, and I didn't give a fuck because I got richer from that trip for the fact that I didn't fucking lift a finger. I was so in my feminine that I wore 2 left gloves skiing one day because my brain was not on. I didn't turn the alarm on. I wasn't the one saying get out of bed. I never cooked dinner. Like, I didn't do on Christmas Day. He's like, you nap, I'm cooking. Like, that makes life richer. That's what I want you guys to think about. So yeah, even if you don't have a business, I actually think that you should, to be honest, I think that when you invest in your personal life, that should be more of an investment than what you invest in your business, because when you invest in your personal life, your business will expand very easily. But when you invest in your business, your personal life won't necessarily expand, because whilst you might you know, get more clients in the door, for example, and you might make more like digits, that could be bigger digits in your bank account. If you're not happier on a soul level because you still haven't healed all your trauma, you're still not happy in your relationship, you're still not in your feminine, you're hustling, what's the fucking point of getting the money? Like, I always say, like, money is there for you to live your life. So what is the point of making a lot of money if you're not fucking happy? Like, there we go. No more avoidance. Exactly. The biggest value is the personal development. Thank you, Sophie, and your energy. I love you guys so much. Okay, that turned into a 20-minute live or something or other, which I'm so here for. I'm going to leave you all though, because I really need to go cook us dinner. And yeah, have a lovely day.